welcome back to another episode of Critical Affection, where we affectionately criticize the pop culture that we love. And joining me again tonight is Brian. You're basically just the co-host now. You're stuck with it.
Cool.
That's how it is.
This is what I do with my Monday afternoon evenings.
Afternoon evenings. Hey, Kyron. Good to see ya. Today we're talking about For All Mankind Season 1. Really interesting show. And we'll
Does not get a lot of recognition, though.
No, it's very unsung. Nobody really mentioned it until Kyron said congrats on the promotion to co-host.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so For All Mankind, very unsung. Not a lot of press about it. Kind of seems the thing of every Apple TV series that isn't Ted Lasso, to be quite honest.
That's fair.
We could totally do a show on Ted Lasso too, but
we could do a show on every single episode of Ted Lasso, and I would be here for it.
Absolutely, Ted. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, did not love the second half of the third season. I feel like they kind of botched the landing there.
It seems like they knew the rug was gone, and they're like, well, we got to wrap this up, or people will be unsatisfied. Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, it's about as close to a perfect show as you're gonna get.
Yeah, it was very close, and yeah, people talk about Firefly, and all the ones that Firefly's the one that comes to mind right away about how it's a perfect show because that's not fair. It didn't have a chance to get shitty, so it's not fair. Kyron says I haven't seen an episode of Ted Lasso. Oh, highly recommend. You're probably missing a lot of jokes from that show that people are dropping into conversation, and you just don't get the reference because you haven't seen it. There's a lot of good ones, and yeah, I was just about to launch into let's talk about Ted Lasso, but let's not talk about Ted Lasso because that's not why we're here today. Let's talk about For All Mankind Season 1. Yeah. And I really like this show a lot. I'm really interested. I struggled to get into it. Like all of the episodes, particularly the beginning half of the season, are kind of slow to me. Like they feel a little slow. Like they probably could have.
The whole series is a slow burn.
Yeah. For
sure. It's not action.
Yeah, and it's each episode is an hour or almost an hour or slightly over an hour. So, plan to invest roughly an hour of your day into watching an episode. But
it's hard to have that show on like while you're cleaning or something cuz you'll miss stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're fairly dense.
Yeah, I
but
feel
they're not
like
in your face.
They could have sped some of that stuff up. Like there didn't need to be as much in it as there was. I didn't dislike what was there, but I found my attention drifting. Like I said, particularly in the early episodes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. And I feel like this, I haven't looked into what the source material is, sure. But I feel like they have like a series of books. For reference, each series or each season of For All Mankind is a different decade and a different era in what is essentially a fictitious space race.
Mm-hmm. It's like what if Russia landed on the moon first and the space race never ended, kind of thing.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, I've only watched season 1 so far, so I'm assuming that's what the whole thing is about. Is that
exactly.
Space race.
That's the elevator pitch for the entire series.
Yeah, it kind of feels like for the actual what really happened in history, it was kind of they all called it quits after NASA obviously continued. Russia's space program, which I don't actually know that much about, to be honest. We all continued, but it did not get the publicity or the attention that this stuff is getting. So for All Mankind. So
historically, real history. Once America landed on the moon, we declared ourselves the winner of the space race, and we're like, "Well, space race is over. We win. Everybody go home." And
that's not
this
what happens.
Puts forward the premise of what if America didn't go there first, and they're like, "We ain't quitting. This isn't over, Russia. It's far from over." And it's an Apple TV series, so Russia's the bad guy.
Yep. To answer your question quickly, Kyron, no. One guy kind of speaks with a southern drawl, but no, there's no cowboys. I mean, there's no cowboys. None at all.
He gets called a cowboy, I believe.
Yeah, he's got a mustache. Yeah, I think Roy calls him a cowboy.
Yeah, so
And he also calls him
right.
Ronald McDonald and a lot of things, actually. He calls him a lot of things. I'm not going to spoil it for you because some of the insults are some of the best parts.
Yeah.
Even
when that show's trying to be nasty. Right.
We're not talking about Ted Lasso. We're gonna schedule a Ted Lasso episode and we're gonna invite Kyron on and then spoil the shit out of it for you. Yeah. Russia's the bad guy? When did that happen?
As soon as Apple TV went live, baby.
That's what we're talking about.
If you don't watch a lot of Apple TV series, Russia's always the bad guy in those.
I haven't watched that many at all, to be honest.
Well,
I watched Lessons
spoiler.
in Chemistry. I watched the first season of For All Mankind. I've watched Ted Lasso. I think that might be it.
Karen Etagon in the Tetris show.
Kyron, you don't have Apple TV? Send me a message later. We'll talk.
I do not condone piracy.
I didn't say anything
officially
about piracy.
I didn't say anything about what I say privately.
Anyway.
Wink.
So yeah, the premise of this show is, what if Russia got to the moon first and the space race didn't just, like America didn't just declare ourselves the victors and then we're done now. We win, end of story.
Let's build nukes.
I think in the very first episode, it was either first or second. First, it opens with Russia landed on the moon, and this is huge. And then it's a lot of talking about like the Americans, NASA and Nixon. Because
no Watergate in this. Yeah.
I thought that they briefly referenced Watergate. Also, Ted Kennedy is president in this. Which, okay.
Fiction.
But yeah, they have a lot of archival footage, so it feels really real while you're watching it, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the atmospheric, like drawing you in and being like, this is 1969.
Yeah, like they do a great job with that. You know, they have the archival footage, the real stuff, and then they blend it in with the stuff that they made up, and it looks pretty seamless. It's pretty good. And so you're really able to be absorbed in the fact that, like, you're be absorbed in the, to suspend reality or suspend, you can believe this is happening. So, Russia sends, people to the moon first, and then, everything continues on business as usual, but behind the scenes, NASA's furiously trying to do one-up Russia somehow, and then Russia gets them again with a woman on the moon, not just a person on the moon, but it's a woman, and so then Nixon is like, we don't have women, we need to put a pretty.
We're in a pissing contest.
And then they want to put a moon base on the moon, and
first phone call from the moon.
There's phone call from the moon, and something about Nixon said they don't want something about second place or some shit. Like, there's just so much pissing match happening in here.
I think that's every season, if I recall.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So we got more of that to look forward to.
Yeah,
because the women feature pretty prominently once the women they start the women's space program thing in episode 3. But the women, the wives of the astronauts and some of the female space NASA people are there. So they don't shy away or pretend that there's no women, like real history tended to do. And they even
Not
actually
until Sally Ride.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many unsung heroes in the real NASA program that were women. Who were women? like there was, I can't remember her name, but there was one who was that when they would first start to use computers to do calculations, this woman, she was the one that they asked to check the calculations to make sure the computer was right. Like that's how good at math she was.
I've heard about.
Yeah, she's
that
they're
person.
naming a freaking telescope after her, I believe. The one that's going up after James Webb is gonna be named after her, I think. Nancy Grace something. You'd think I would look that up, but I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm really tired today, and I don't feel like it. I'm not gonna Google anything because I don't feel like it. Brian can Google, or you guys can Google for yourself because it's really easy to find. I'm sure it is.
Do we have to teach people how to use the internet? The whole internet?
That's what the library's for. If you don't know how to use the internet, go to the library. They'll help you.
Check out your encyclopedia.
The library is an amazing, magical place, you guys. Go to the library. Support your library. Just go hang out there. You don't have to check any books out. You just get chill there if you want.
I like somebody's statement that if somebody proposed the idea of a library today, it would be immediately disposed of as an idea, immediately as communism.
I was going to say
Books for
socialist, right?
free? Never.
Socialist. Giving people knowledge without making them pay.
Disgusting.
Okay.
Publishers will be out of
mankind.
business in a moment.
So, first, like, opening thoughts. What are your opening thoughts about the show?
It is super hard sci-fi, which I appreciate seeing. It's like science fiction, like should do some job to explain the science, and they do. Like they don't drag you into the calculus, but they make it not be like, oh, let's just retrofit the deflector shield to absorb and attract tachyons. There's none of that. Are we past 10 minutes? Can I swear? Because, yeah, that sci-fi is fine and all well and good. That's soft sci-fi. This is hard sci-fi. They're like, oh, we have a problem. To the whiteboard, and we need to throw calculations up there. I don't know if they're real calculations or not, and the show doesn't expect you to know any of this. They just go, oh, math is gonna be our solution, and we are good at math.
I was gonna say that's how it is in actual analysis,
how
so
it
that
be.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that they do, they are using real historical figures. In a lot of the characters that we see. There are a lot of actual people, like Armstrong and Aldrin. I almost said Buzz Lightyear. That's how tired I am. Buzz Aldrin.
The crossover
Neil
we've been
Armstrong,
waiting for.
John Glenn shows up, and John in this. John Glenn's kind of an asshole in this. I don't know if he's an asshole in real life, but he's kind of an asshole in this. And Gene Kranz is in it. What is the name of the director of NASA, the flight director?
Margot?
Ed Harris. What?
Oh, sorry.
Mario? Is that what you said? Ed Harris plays him in Apollo 13. I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Maybe that is Gene Kranz. But yeah, real historical figures. And they kill some of them. Which one dude in particular is definitely still alive. I Googled it earlier. He's definitely still alive. I would love to hear what he has to say about this show killing him. I mean, he's like a fucking 100 years old, so maybe he doesn't give a shit at this point. But I would love to be a fly on the wall when somebody tells him that, and him being like, to hear his response. That would have been interesting. Like, yeah. So we know, how you helped the moon missions be a thing, and how you're just very much not dead right now. Well, this show, it's like super cool and like as accurate in the science as possible, but they totally killed you in a big explosion. Sorry.
Metal.
Yeah, maybe he's like, well, that's way cooler than the way I'm definitely gonna go out now, which is probably falling asleep wrong and then pooping
crashing
after I die.
into a bus.
That's just what happens, Jesus Christ. We're getting canceled. This is our last show, isn't it? It's gonna be our last
It's been a hoot.
It's a good thing we don't have like legit sponsors, otherwise we would so be canceled by now. If this was an actual money-making venture rather than just a couple of friends dicking around.
I'd have to tone things down a little bit.
Yeah. But I would try a lot harder if I was actually getting paid to do this. I'm not gonna... Like, I'm half-assing it at the best of times. So... And I am incredibly tired today, for some reason.
And that's the encouragement our viewers need to come back next week. Thank you for being here, Kyron.
I appreciate everybody who comes and watches, but at the same time, this is not the job I'm getting paid to do. This is something I'm doing for funsies. So sometimes I have to give the 100% to them, and then you get whatever's left over. Because that's life, right?
Hey, this is Monday evening. I don't think anyone's coming here with their A game. Maybe if you're on a comic tour or something when you're out there promoting all your things, but like, yeah, this is fun. I come here because I enjoy chatting with you. People like Kyron and...
Well, Kyron, you didn't specify. Have you watched For All Mankind? Are we spoiling the hell out of it for you?
We didn't warn that there were going to be spoilers.
Yeah. I put it right in the beginning, right in the intro, so that I don't have to. And it's on the thumbnails of all the ads that you see too. Like it says there will be spoilers, and so I don't have to remember, because that's how very badly we're gonna spoil everything. Is
Ooh, I could change my name to Brian McSpoiler.
Yes, you can.
I could also get into the drag racing scene.
What? Oh, so I did read a little bit of interesting trivia. Like, obviously, the name of the series comes from the plaque that they put on the moon when they landed. But in this series universe, it said something about communism and the communist way of life. Oh man, it must have pissed off. There's a very specific subset of people in this country that show would piss off so bad. And I don't think I have to describe what subset of people that is to you, knowing what I've already said and what you've already said. It's a thing. So yeah, in this the whole premise is very interesting in that, but I found it to be difficult to get into, because like you said, it's loaded. It is full of information. Not a ton of action, again, particularly in the beginning, not a ton of action, but a lot of interesting story happens. So like the Russians put people on the moon, and then the US is like, oh shit, we gotta pick up our game. And then the Russians put a woman on the moon, and they're like, oh shit, we gotta start a woman space program. That was my favorite episode for obvious reasons.
That's a great one.
It was a very good They actually, so they put 20 women into the program, and one of them in particular, so there's one of the astronauts' name is Gordo Stevens, which I don't actually know if he's a real person. I don't think so. I think he's just a character for the show. But they put him in there, and then specifically because we see a flashback of the fact that his wife Tracy does know how to fly. She has no business being in the flight program, in the astronaut program, but because she's the wife of an already established astronaut, and because Nixon particularly, like the Nixon and his handlers all want a really flashy astronaut, so they're like our space couple,
optics,
or a moon couple or something. That they wanted it to be really great for like for newspaper reading. So that's why they insist, and then also they specifically say they want a pretty blonde woman to be their astronaut. And they said they were only going to pick one, but they did pick 4? They picked 4?
3 or 4.
I think they picked 4. One of whom is also a black woman, which I was like, awesome. Because like I don't feel like that would have happened in NASA in the actual.
She goes very
timeline.
far in the series. Like her character keeps getting better and better,
Goes
and
really far. Just
they
in season
utilize her
one.
character
Yeah,
very well.
she does great. She's the only character in the I was when I the desert thing, the whole going to the desert and carrying 40 pounds and making it back without dying. That episode, I think that was the same episode. The women, the Nixon's women was the name of the episode. Because of course it was, right? And she's the only one who actually sees a rattlesnake. And I was like, well, that's not accurate because there's fucking snakes all over the damn desert.
I don't know if we're going to the desert.
Absolutely gonna they're all gonna see snakes. There's 4 women. One of them kind of an asshole.
Molly, she's my favorite. Far and
like
above,
her.
she is my favorite.
I like her character a lot,
She's
but
so
she
great.
is kind of an asshole.
She's a snark monster. It's great. She is so fun to watch.
I wonder is she in? You can spoil this for me. Is she in the next seasons?
Oh yeah, her character does very well.
Good, because her character is a huge. Like her character's the first one to go to space, the first woman to go to space for America, and she the whole when we meet her in episode 3, I think it was the Nixon's women episode. She's such a dick to everybody except her friend Patty. Such a dick. And everybody's like, why are you such a dick? You know, like they're not, nobody really says that much about him except Tracy, who we see conversations between Tracy and her husband Gordo. And she's like, I love the one where she's like, she's such a dick. She's such an asshole, but she's right. I have no business being here. and it made me remember that from Captain America Civil War, was it? Where Zemo makes a shitty comment, and then the Falcon's like, he's out of line, but he's right. That one. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, so. Yeah, anyway. We see, well, I think that of all the women characters, I think she might be my favorite, simply because she was there. She was a part of the Mercury program, which came before the Apollo program and the Gemini program. She was there. That was the very first one, and she was
promised space before everyone else. She's got seniority.
Yeah.
She's got the chops. Always had. But
she made a point of that when she got moved to the Apollo 15 crew. She made a point of saying, technically, I outrank all of you guys because I was here first. And I'm like, hold back. You can't be a dick to your crewmates on this mission. And what's the other?
But she commands so much respect, and she gets more and more respect as the series goes on.
Like when we follow the women through their program, their training program, you see that her cockiness is not unearned. It is
she's very
that cockiness, and she was like, there was only one test that they did where she did not place first that we knew of, and that was when her friend Patty, her and her friend Patty were fucking cocky as shit. But Patty was a little nicer to all the other women in the group, whereas Molly remained a dick, and she was the one who, she was the one who directly confronted Tracy, the wife of the already established astronaut, because she knew Tracy had no business being there, and made Tracy admit it to her husband. But then Tracy eventually does not drop out. She eventually comes to accept and desire the position. So,
her character also goes places.
Yeah.
The first season is a lot of putting characters into positions for the future, but showing why they deserve to be there, and not just being like, oh look, we've got an alternate NASA in the 80s and everything is just lovely and peachy, and how did we get here? Like, this is how they got there, which is another thing I appreciate. They don't just say this thing is. They're like, here's how everything is.
I feel like this, like we could just talk about the episodes where the women feature prominently, like their scenes, the scenes in which the women feature prominently. We could talk about that and make a whole meal of it. And it's International Women's Month, so
there we go.
Yeah, no,
Very
that was by far episode 3 was my favorite because of the like her. So Molly, again, she's an asshole to everybody, even kind of to her husband. She's married, and we get like one scene with him in that. Not that episode, but the one after she gets put on the Apollo 15 mission, and she's even kind of a jerk to him too. And it's like,
it's her personality.
Yeah,
he knows
but
that.
he clearly that's what he's into with her, because he just kind of snarks back, and he's like they match each other perfectly. They match each other's energy.
They're
Different kinds of
very
energy,
good
but
couple.
it matches right up.
Mm-hmm.
And she the reason we see that she's very salty and bitter, and she doesn't expect that the program will last, which I'm sure everybody was thinking that as they were watching it, right? Because that's what they did to women's programs. That's what they still do to women's programs to this day. If it doesn't get enough interest, they just cut it, because nobody cares about women's stuff. It's a thing. And
even Nixon was like, it's a gimmick.
I feel like I have the right to say that, being that I have women parts. I'm allowed to say that that is a thing that has affected pretty much every woman on the planet at some point or another. And it's just sexism. And there's to a point, like, there's even one of the astronauts' wives is very deeply sexist herself. And I think that I saw somewhere that she's gonna be in season 2, and I have not watched any of season 2 yet. So
is that Karen?
Yeah, Karen Baldwin. I
Yeah.
can't remember her. Ed Baldwin is the guy's name.
Yeah.
He was the one, like, the whole first episode is this he could have landed on the moon. He could have defied the orders that he was given and landed on the moon, but he didn't. And so it's very wham wham boo hoo. You cost America the moon. Like, no, that's not how it works, but okay. And yeah, so, but then I think I come to respect Ed. Like, at first I was like, he's such a dick. Like, what happens in episode 1 is he gets drunk and then he leaks some shit to a reporter that he shouldn't have said. And him and his buddy too. Was it Gordo? Gordo Stevens was the first. He's the one who opened the floodgates, and that made Ed just word vomit everywhere. Just not shut his mouth, and then got published nationwide, his comments, and then everybody was angry with him, which rightfully so, and because he kind of threw the whole organization under the bus. It sucked. But then I come to respect Ed as the series progresses.
He's a central character, and he does a lot of heavy lifting in the show. I think that's why they got a more experienced actor for his role. And he and it doesn't make him a good guy. It makes him the primary protagonist. It's largely ensemble.
We have too many unflawed protagonists anymore. Like, there's so many shows that we watch these days that we're like, nobody's the good guy in this, though, are they?
It's all
you all
gray.
kind of suck. And yeah, but
yeah,
I
comes off
come
as very
to
human.
respect it. Like, I can't remember if Ed did anything that would have made me, revise my opinion of him. I kind of watched.
I mean, his
these, like,
1969 personality they all deserve a big slap across the face, but
yeah, well, because even like Ed is probably the least sexist of the men there, besides the flight the guy who's training them, and I can't remember his name.
Deke?
Is
that Deke? I don't know.
Yeah, there's Deke and there's Gene. Gene's like, he was like, at some point he becomes the director of NASA.
Okay.
Yeah, Deke must be the one that does the. I did pull up the Wikipedia page so that I could go back and reference for names, because there's a lot of people in this shit.
I've got fandom up for that reason.
Good call. Yeah, so Deke is, he's the one, and he has a lot of respect for the women, and in fact, there's a point at which one of the women has a catastrophic crash and dies, and they were gonna, like, Nixon was like, nobody likes it when women die in plane crashes, and they were gonna pull the plug, and Deke was like, these women have earned it, and then he kind of goes rogue a little bit and pins the women so that they're officially astronauts in a big flashy press conference so that they can't cancel the program. And he ends up pinning, I think it's 4 women. It's Molly and Tracy. And Danny, the black woman, his name is Danny. And shit, Waverly is her last name. Is it Karen? Ellen.
Yeah, Ellen.
And Ellen,
she goes on to do big things.
So yeah, they've got like that whole it's a very diverse set of people. It is like diverse, not in race, because they have 1 black woman and 3 white women, which
personality wise,
yeah, honestly, for 1969, it would be surprising to see a black woman up there at all if that had happened for real. But Ellen has a secret, which I actually pegged immediately, because there's a scene that Tracy asks Ellen, why aren't you, or she asks her, she's married, and Ellen's like, nope. And she's like, but you're so pretty. And I was like, oh, she's gay. And
that's coded.
Yeah, and then it was like, because instead of making any other comment, Ellen had it locked and loaded with, you sound like my mom. And I was like, oh yeah, no, she's definitely gay. That's why she's not married, because she's gay. And nobody cares about that these days, really. Well, most people in everyday situations don't care about that these days, but in 1969, that would have gotten her boosted out on her ass so fast.
Blackballed everywhere.
Yep. Like, she would have had to, her parents had a company, and she would have had to, her plan was to go work with them if she didn't make it if she washed out of the program, the astronaut program, but she would have barely been able to do that. And only because of nepotism. Like, she would have been blacklisted on everything. But,
it's also used.
Yeah, whatever. Close enough. So, okay, I'm trying to make the point with Molly. She's very bitter, she's very cynical. She's had programs pulled out from under her time and time again. And she is so sure, and she didn't even know how close to right she was, that the current program that they were in, the Apollo program, was very close. The women were very close to getting their program pulled out from under them, and she was the only one who was ever ready for it at any given time. And she ended up not needing to be ready for it, but she was expecting it, because she had been through it at least twice before, from the sound of it. And she knew that it was going to happen. And so, but she didn't show a lot of surprise when it didn't happen. And she continued to be cynical. So she
doesn't know how to be happy.
Yeah, she's kind of...
You made it. Everything's going your way.
Yeah, like, she's a dick the whole time. But we sort of get why, because she's had this shit happen to her so many times that you're surprised that she is even still trying sometimes. And then the woman who dies in the crash is like her best friend in the world. And so she takes that really hard. But that's one of the things that her husband actually uses that as a, like a what would Patty do situation, where she doesn't, because Molly ends up being the first. They bump one of the other. They bump very key position. They bump Gordo, the husband of Tracy, who just got pinned as an astronaut. They bump him off the crew of the next mission going up, and they replace him with Molly, which, given the timeline, it seemed like that was really short notice, and I feel like that wouldn't really have happened. They wouldn't have, unless something horrible happened to Gordo. I don't think they would have bumped him for anybody, even a woman. But for the purposes of this show, like, they're very concerned about optics and beating the Russians. They just really want to beat the Russians. And so they replace Gordo with Molly. And she does not get along with her crewmates. There are 3 people going up. 2 of them are men. One of them is Ed, her former teacher, now co-pilot or colleague. Co-pilot? They're all pilots, so
Yeah,
whatever. They're
fellow
all going
astronauts.
up. Yeah, they're all going up in this mission. They're going to be in very close quarters, and she is not trying at all to ingratiate herself with them. And
They all should have taken lessons from her husband. Be like, okay, when she does this, when she snaps at you for not closing the microwave door, you just snap back with something about a salad bowl. That's what you gotta do.
Yep. And yeah, so Ed does not handle that well. Ed's very much a people pleaser type. He was one of the least sexist of the actual astronauts. Deke was not I think he was in an astronaut program, but he never ended up going up to space, and he became the guy who trains and okays the astronauts to go to space in the first place. So I didn't see any sexism from him, like nothing apparent. But everybody else was at least a little sexist. Ed's wife, incredibly sexist, way more sexist, and I expected Ed to be sexist about it because he was the one who was going to have to face the reality of going up in space with a woman, and he clearly has feelings about women being inferior, but he doesn't really seem that concerned about it. And then when Molly gets put on his crew for Apollo 15, he tries to like warm her up to them and like tell her everything's gonna be fine and we've got your back, and she does not take that well.
He just does what he's always done.
And
he
goes home and complains.
Customize his playbook.
Yeah, he goes home and complains about how mean and bitchy she was to his wife. And she's the whole time, you can see the look on her face, like she is so sexist. She does not believe women are competent in any way to be astronauts. And you could just see it in her face. Like she is not happy that the very first crew with a woman of course, it's going to be her husband. And they seem to have a pretty good marriage, right? I didn't like there was a very traditional marriage where they didn't do a lot of fighting and stuff. They fought, they bickered about situations like a woman going up on his mission, and that they were both on the same side in that fight. Like neither one of them wanted it.
Right.
Whereas and honestly, Gordo was surprisingly progressive in that, particularly in that his wife getting pinned an astronaut on the same day that he got bumped off of the crew of the ship, the Apollo 15 that he was supposed to go up into space onto the moon. Their plan was to land on the moon the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And so
set up the base.
Yeah, because they're gonna build a military base on the moon, because that's a good idea. And so you're the science guy, and because I was like, with the water thing. So there's water on the moon in this universe, and I was like, how can water be on a celestial body that doesn't have an atmosphere? What's keeping that water in? Why is it there?
It's solid. It's a mineral. At that point,
it's a mineral.
It's a rock. Yeah, technically.
Because it's just that freaking cold. Is that all?
Frozen water is a crystal, therefore a mineral. And since it comes from the earth, when it melts, it's melted mineral, therefore lava. Therefore, humans are lava monsters.
Legit.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely buy it.
I've been drinking carbonated lava this whole time.
Is that caffeinated carbonated lava?
No, I'd have a cup of coffee before the show. Smart. That's why I'm energetic and bubbly like my soft drink.
So then they go to the moon. Molly does something. Molly finds the actual ice, right? Like they find where they think ice is, but
she's
Molly's
in a lava
actually
tunnel.
Identifies it. Like the women do, and I think that it's interesting, and I think that there's a reason that they feature, like the whole point of calling it For All Mankind is not just to call back to that plate that's on the moon, but also to it's also to point out the fact that it's for all womankind too.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why you watch us? Watch for the science?
No, we need to add more science. Brian's science corner.
We could do that. Yeah. We could do a whole new show on agents. You guys comment below if you want to see Brian's science hour on Agents of Geekdom. Like, we could just look up pop culture shit, weird, random, and like Brian could explain why it is or isn't possible.
Yeah, pretty much everything they do in For All Mankind is legit, like science, and that's why it's
like, yeah, it just made me think about The Martian and how pretty accurate The Martian is.
And For All Mankind, I would say is even more so.
Yeah, I said Neil deGrasse Tyson said that
Oh, yeah.
The Martian was very accurate. There's two things, and there was one thing that I identified so I was like, yeah.
Brian McAvoy, the science guy. Brian. I love it. I'll have to write my own theme song, huh?
Yeah, you do. I mean, if you're gonna have a show, you have to have a theme song.
I think I've been working on a musical instrument. It's gonna be terrible. I love it.
You're always working on something.
Something.
This guy's built like a piano and a weird guitar and.
Well, that's one of the things I'm working on.
Those are the only things I can remember, but I know there's
the clock. Used to have that clock in the background.
Well, the clock's not an instrument, a musical
instrument, but
anyway.
Yeah.
So, was there any science that you noticed? Because I'm not gonna notice that the science is or isn't right. There was only a couple of things that I was like, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
but
I think they had very good consultants to come in and say, yep, that's real, and nix the stuff that was.
You didn't see anything that you would have been like, that is obviously not a thing that could have happened?
Nothing.
I mean, except like
nothing I recall.
We know that there's no water on the moon, right? We know that.
And so in the show, they find the water in a lava tunnel. Like Molly's in a lava tunnel, big cavity, and she finds it buried under there where it can't sublimate, presumably. And so that's why that might be where they said, oh yes, there isn't water on the moon, but she found it, essentially buried very deep in the moon. So plausible.
Yes, it's plausible that that there's water in the core of the moon or under the crusts of the moon today. Obviously not so much so that anybody at NASA cares about it, but like probably not enough to build a moon base, or else we'd have to haul our own water up there, almost certainly.
That's expensive, but yeah, if you can get water up there to begin with, that helps.
That would be like the number one thing, right? Like you could make do, because they were talking, they make a comment about that, like you could hydroponics, you can make rocket fuel out of water, you can, obviously if they don't have to haul up the water, that significantly decreases the amount of, and like so the water is the number one thing, and we all know that from just existing, that being water alive is incredibly important to our survival, to our lives. Nothing on this planet could survive if there was no water. Like eventually,
not with current biology, but we can get into sci-fi and talk about what different life needs.
And so I know we both agree that the scientific accuracy was very, very good, very high degree of scientific accuracy, very believable.
This is probably the hardest sci-fi I've ever watched. Like this is where I set my scale of like, oh, what's the softest sci-fi? Star Trek. I don't even count Star Wars as sci-fi. I count them as fantasy. But yeah, on one side you've got Star Trek, where let's just divert some tachyons and solve their plot hole.
Science fiction?
No. What? The one... Okay, short rant. Maybe not that short. Science fiction uses science to advance the plot. So Star Trek, they're like, we need to science at our problem. Okay. That's sci-fi. And in Star Wars, there is none of that. Everything is progressed by characters and whatever. The one time they tried to do it, and they're like, oh, what if we had a measurement of some kind? Let's call them midi-chlorians. Fans lost their shit because they didn't want sci-fi in their fantasy, whether they'd admit it or not.
That's
Just
fair.
because you have laser guns does not make it sci-fi.
That's fair.
Would you like me to
Yeah,
continue this rant?
Space opera, right? Like, we can agree that it's a space opera.
100%.
But I just assumed everybody called it sci-fi. I personally saw
laser
the
guns,
huge fantasy element to it, and I did not ever care. Never really wanted to classify it. I generally don't.
It's mostly about magic
classifying
space
stuff
knights
unless I
fighting for princesses.
That's
so
fair. Yeah. So yeah.
and
Space
it's a
opera.
fine fantasy.
Yeah, it's a great story. Well, it's an okay story. It's
a classic story.
It has its faults. Let's just we can do a Star Wars episode later.
We needed more brother sister kissing. It only happened the once.
Yeah.
Is that not the problem people have with Star Wars? Huh.
That's the only problem.
Everything else was fine.
My favorite Lucas quote ever is that Jar Jar is the key to all of this. That's my favorite.
The Jar Jar is the Sith Lord.
Jar Jar is the key, he said.
I wanted that. Are you talking about the Jar Jar Sith Lord conspiracy theory?
No, I'm talking about George Lucas actually said
Yes,
that.
I've
I
heard.
I don't think
I've heard that sound clip.
Why? Because I don't think he ever really explained himself on that. But yes, he would have made an amazing Sith Lord, wouldn't he have?
I think so, because no one would have seen it coming.
Comment below if you want a Star Wars episode.
Episode 1, I could have criticism and affection for Phantom Menace.
I don't hate Jar Jar as much as everybody else hates him.
Oh, well, you're wrong.
But I acknowledge that he is very hated, and I guess maybe it's because I have a higher tolerance for annoying people, because if you met my family, you'd understand.
I'm glad you didn't say Jeff.
But Jeff can be annoying sometimes too, but generally I wouldn't spend that much time around somebody I thought was annoying.
I can be annoying too, and you co-host a show with me.
You know what? When you get that science show started up, he can co-host that with you, because he's going to be a lot more serious about it than I will. Let's just.
Oh, we could. If he and I do the show, I could take up ham radio and we could do the whole thing via ham.
Is that legal? I know there's rules.
Yeah, you can only broadcast for a certain amount of time.
Is an hour too
I think.
long? I don't know.
I think as long as we're
we'll
back and
talk
forth.
About that.
Yeah, he would know better.
topic
I don't
here.
have my ham license.
You don't? Oh, you'll have to get your ham license then.
Yeah, but I live on the top floor of my building, so I can get an antenna up there.
Oh, see, he's just over there, and now all of a sudden he's clapping. He's
What?
clapping for Brian getting his ham license. You're gonna have to study a bunch to get past him, because I think he's like got the only one. He's only one away from being the highest one that he can get. So he's taking
The Uber Elmer
tests now. But
I forget what it's called, but it's like.
so okay. Back to topic. We'll talk about all this other stuff after we're done. Do you have any strong criticisms of the story?
The thing you brought up earlier, it's slow. There's not like an excitement each episode. It's like they took a book series and they're like, we're going to do this book series right. We're not going to cut the scenes that people like. We're going to include everything from the books so that in the future, when somebody does something, they're like, oh, and I understand their motivation for why they did that. And they go through every single step on screen in real time. There's not quick flashbacks, which is good and bad.
Very interesting for a science nerd, but slow.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of action, particularly in the beginning.
And they do have one, I think, when they're trying to catch a space canister. That's tense as hell. Like, I was breathing shallow during that, and it was tense and nail biting. But yeah, I mean, it
definitely has its moments. There's back to my favorite episode. There's a scene in which the one character dies in the crash, and we are so fucking sure it's Tracy. Like, they made it they kind of choreographed it so tightly that it was almost like it can't be Tracy. It has to be someone else. But yeah, like it was very tense. Like, oh my god, Gordo's driving away and he sees the smoke billowing from the crash in his rearview mirror, and he like turns his. They all fucking drive Corvettes. All
Right?
the men drive
Astronauts
Corvettes.
and former Air Force guys. Yeah, apparently it's a tradition.
Yeah, they're just like if you get called, if you get to earn the title of astronaut, even if you've never gone to space, that's just like a thing that you do is buy a fucking Corvette. And then they goddamn race them, and then they drive drunk. And guys, I know it's 1969, but guys.
Set a better example. Do better.
Oh, Kyron was with us on Darth Jar Jar too.
Yeah. Darth Binks.
I'm here for
What
it.
is your bidding, my master?
Maybe we should get somebody to write an alternate Star Wars. I bet somebody's already
I'll
done
bet
it. We'll
it's
just
out
need
there.
to find those people and then invite them onto the show. And we'll make a comic out of it because that's what
It would be a tricky thing to do an alternate Star Wars where like Jar Jar is like this character people want to read about.
Okay, fair. We'll figure it out. We're smart.
I don't know if it's worth our time.
Between the two of us, there's one really smart person there, I'm sure.
I don't know if it's worth our time.
Maybe not. I don't know. We're still talking about For All Mankind.
Let's write original stories. Let's write original sci-fi.
So yeah, so the big criticism, we're agreed that it's just that it's information dense, action light. It's got its moments, but there's just it is slow, and I found my attention drifting. Particularly like we don't see any of the space stuff except in Flash. Okay, that's not true because Americans do go to the moon shortly after the Russians do. And in between Russians landing first on the moon and the Russians landing the first woman on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and the other guy, was that John Glenn? The three, yeah, and they actually have a moment. They actually have, I think it crosses from the end of episode 1 into the beginning of episode 2. I can't remember, but the point is, they kind of had a crash landing on the moon, and we all think they're dead, and then suddenly they're not dead. It was very Apollo 13, where there was like no communication, and then suddenly they were back. But
we do get more
fine.
in space stuff in later seasons. So I have a recommendation. Is what my wife and I did when we watched this show is we would do like one episode a day. We didn't try. It's not one of those like binging shows like Ted Lasso.
No.
It is
to do that. I tried to watch like 3 of them in one day, and I got through
rough.
2 of them, and I was very much drifting after the second one. I was like, I can't do.
Yeah, do one a day at most. And unless you're super into it, then I'm not suggesting you pump the brakes. But for somebody who's like, I like science and I'm not currently working for NASA, yeah, don't feel bad about taking the show slowly and letting each episode digest. Which is my very affectionate way of saying it's kind of dry.
It is. It can sort like there's a lot of stuff I thought could have been cut, but at the same time I don't know what, because it all contributes to the story in various ways.
Very thorough.
There was some stuff that I'll say I won't. They shouldn't cut anything, but I think that they could have spent a little less time on some of the stuff, like the dynamic.
Could have tightened some things.
Yeah, like the dynamic between Gordo and Tracy. Like Gordo's a cheater. They're all cheaters apparently, according to some of the people that you talk to on that show. Like some of the people who get screen time, they're all cheaters. But Gordo is a confirmed cheater on the show, and I fucking love that Tracy responded to the knowledge, to finding out that he was cheating, because she apparently had always suspected it, but then she got confirmation, and she chucked all his shit out onto the front sidewalk, and the only reason she stopped was because sexist Mrs. Baldwin came in and convinced her not to. That
boys will be boys.
Yeah. And like, of course, she's got the one husband who doesn't cheat. Like, we don't know that he doesn't cheat, but we kind of assume that he doesn't cheat, and we kind of assume that the others do cheat. even though uh even though we only get confirmation of the one cheater. Oh, and okay, so person who hasn't had any screen time or not, much screen time. She just doesn't have much screen time. But the Hetty from Ghosts, that actress Rebecca Wisicki makes she's that queen matron lady who when they are watching the American moon landing and it goes wrong, she's the one who says, "All right, you women go to the Armstrong house. You women go to the Aldrin house." She's when she sees that this is not a crisis that's going to resolve itself quickly, she no panicking, no nothing. She's just like, "Okay, this is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do. This is
Yeah,
what we
because she
need
was
to
the
do."
experienced
Yeah,
astronaut's wife.
yeah. She was the only one,
Jumped
I think,
right into action.
and she just knew what to do. And she comes in, like, she came in and they were very derisive about her when she comes into that party that we end up seeing her take charge in. And so we're like, "Oh, okay, I guess she's a bitch. She's an annoying not bad guy, but like annoying character, side character. She does not have a big part at all."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if she's going to show up in season 2. Probably not.
I don't think so. I don't.
She barely
recall
had
her.
any time in season 1. But I
Oh,
really
I think she does show up for very minor parts.
I love the actress because
Yeah.
I love Ghost so much.
So good.
And so when I saw her, I was like, I know her. And so I kept calling her Hetty through the entire episode that she was in, except that first episode in particular. Like, I think she shows up at one point later on in this. I can't remember. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, she's
doesn't matter.
always a minor character.
The point is, she starts off, you're kind of like, "Oh, I don't like her," and then she immediately gained, like, with that one action where she's just like, "Okay,
Yeah.
we need to do some damage control. This is what we're doing," and she just takes charge. And so, like, I was like,
And
I
it's
went from,
like,
I don't
when
like
he's-
that character, to like, that's a good character.
It's you say damage control. I don't think that's quite the right word, because like damage control be like, "Oh no, the press is gonna do." She immediately was like, "Here's how we support the other people." Yeah, it's not damage control in that sense. It's damage control of the people who need us, and there's something we can go do for them immediately.
Yeah, and she
Yeah, very noble.
pointed out that the press is going to descend on these women's homes and that somebody needs to be there to help them because this is going to be hard. And somebody who has their wits about them too, because I'm sure that those women were beside themselves because they never show the wives of the 3 men that crash land on the moon. But they do show the women that had the astronauts' wives that didn't have. So, like, they were all, "Let's go handle this. Let's go handle because that just seems like even today that's just kind of a astronauts' wives, astronauts' spouses do that stuff. It's probably not as necessary now as it was in the 60s, but it's a thing. Yeah, and what else? So I mean, just little stuff like that really made it from too dry to watch and turned it into a, I can stick with this. So it's like little drops of stuff. But like, if you are absolutely not a hard sci-fi person, if you're not a let's listen to the science person, this might not be the show for you. But
That's
I
fair.
really
To that point, if you get probably if you get through the second season and you're like, you'll know if you like it at that point or not. The first season's got a lot of like, okay, we need to establish most of the main characters. We need to establish how this universe is different from ours and all this stuff. And then the second one gets into the pace of the entire series. So if you're curious, watch the first 2 episodes. If at that point it hasn't hooked you, it won't.
useful advice.
Yeah.
We're actually at our hour now. I just saw it tick over to the hour. And we don't have a quiz today because I forgot to make a quiz. I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
That's fair.
I have an ancient cat that's recovering from surgery. He's doing incredibly well, but he is as I described to Brian before we started the show, he likes to climb up into the bed when I'm asleep in the mornings, in the early mornings, and slap me in the face to wake me up so that I'll feed him. No fucks. Does not care about my comfort or well-being at all. Does not care about the fact that he can absolutely... He had no reason to do that. There was plenty of food already. No reason to do that. But he was like, I'm awake and
It's wake up time.
Yeah.
It's wake up time.
I'm awake. You need to be
It's wake up time.
Fucking cat, right?
Wake up time. Yes, I have a cat who sends me to bed at 11 o'clock-ish. She will come wherever I am, and she'll just meow, 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 just start screaming at me. And I'll try to comfort her and make sure she's got food and clean litter. And unless I go lay down, she just keeps shouting.
I have one that's part shepherd, I think, because she will try to herd me to bed. She'll see me going down the hall, and she's like, "Oh, it's time!" And then if I don't immediately, then she tries to swing back around, like she circles back and tries to guide me gently into the right direction. And it's like, I'm not ready to go to bed yet. Just, I'm gonna calm down.
Go.
Yeah, it's fun. Cats are never a dull moment with cats. But anyway, so yeah, back to the topic here.
We're on topic as much as we usually are.
I think so. I think we're doing all right. This is not the worst episode that we've had as far as going off topic, for sure. So no quiz. But next time we do For All Mankind, I'll make sure that there's questions from season 1 in the season 2 quiz. Don't know when that's gonna be. We're gonna stick it in here and there. We don't want to science you out. Like that'll be for a separate show that Brian's gonna do. that you can come and ask your sciencey questions and sciencey pop culture questions, because it has to be pop culture. It has to be nerd related, because that's what Agents is
That makes sense.
Agents of Geekdom is about geeks and their dominions.
I'm looking at
that
one.
Song, that word comes from. I don't know where that word comes. I'm going to Google the etymology of kingdom, and kingdom and all the ones below it, because there's like dukedoms and
fiefdoms.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So the part of the word that is dom, I want to figure
the
out
suffix dom.
Yeah, is it dominion? Because that's
That makes
dom
sense.
is basically, that's for like, even for the one that you're thinking about, the one that you've heard dom be used in many times. Yeah, that one too. I feel like they're all the same.
But there, dom is a prefix, not a suffix.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So I'm gonna look that up tonight. It remains to be seen whether or not I'll remember the
And then
answer.
we'll talk about that on
you can ask
Sarah's etymology show. Geeky etymology.
Oh, I laugh, but as long as it would not be an hour-long show, that'd probably be interesting. Wouldn't want to do an hour-long on it, though.
You'd need a lot of words.
Yeah.
That'd be good for like TikToks or...
This show's already bordering on too much prep work. So I gotta watch TV and then like do a whole quiz. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, talk with Kelson. Just do some TikToks or YouTube shorts
definitely.
Or whatever Blue Sky does.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We have to figure out. I specifically have to figure out a lot of more social media stuff. So anyway, yeah. So let us know if you watched For All Mankind, and let us know how far you made it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you somewhere in the middle, and you want to tell us why? Did you want to tell Brian why he's wrong?
Yeah, go ahead.
Me why I'm wrong?
I won't listen.
Yeah,
Oh, and if you have seen For All Mankind, do you also follow Neil deGrasse Tyson on social media? Because I bet there's a correlation between these two things.
To assume so.
I suspect so.
Tyson
This is my hypothesis.
He's one of those guys that is so desperately uncool that he circles back to cool, isn't he?
No, he's
That's
just
me.
I don't know. I just think he's
Such a
the
huge
shit.
Nerd.
He's just the shit. Period.
Yeah, no, I never not want to listen to something that he has to say, even when I don't think that I do. I generally end up realizing that actually, yeah, I do. I hear more Star Talk than I ever planned to hear in my life. Which, I never set out seeking to listen to Star Talk, but it happens a lot. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mad at it. Because you always learn at least one new thing when you listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, yeah, let us know how you feel about For All Mankind. And if you haven't watched it, if you're gonna give it a try because you listened to us talk about it for an hour,
Give it 2 episodes.
Yeah, if you have a question for either one of us or for somebody who was on here last week or whatever, put it in the comments. We'll see it eventually. We'll address your question, comment, concern. And next week is the last day of March, and we're gonna talk about the Goonies.
Yeah, classic.
40 years that movie has been out. 40 years this year.
Are the actors still alive? Because, I mean,
Not
Goonies
all
never
of them.
die.
Not all of them, but I don't know if the Goonies, are all the Goonies?
Goonies never say die.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they never die. They just never say it.
Oh, fair enough.
Which is, just saying their catchphrase is ruining the catchphrase because you do say it in the catchphrase. Just saying.
I have to go.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna so go, and also Matt and Steph from Insymmetry Creations, and they are going to be here because their Misfits Clubhouse title is actually, if you like the Goonies, you're gonna love their new it's their current Kickstarter that's out right now, and it's the Misfits Clubhouse, and you should definitely.
That sounds awesome. Like just the name.
Yes. Oh my god. Just go. Okay, so just go to Kickstarter and just type in the search, just in Symmetry. I believe it's spelled the way that it is. But yeah, like they have the coolest freaking trailer on there. So just go watch it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're wrapping up this show, so we're gonna be like another minute or two tops, and then go watch it. Highly recommend. And yes, excellent work on that. It's very. Yeah, the Goonies. If you like the Goonies, you're gonna love Misfits Clubhouse. And
Misfits with a Z.
Yep, that's the one. And come back next week and talk to us about that. And then after that, we've got Secret Levels coming up in April, and Chernobyl. We're gonna talk about Chernobyl. Another.
The Russians are the bad guys. Because it's on Apple TV.
No, that was an HBO one.
Was it? Oh,
yeah, and they're not the bad guys. They're the only guys. Russia's. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but there was so much
there was the Russian bad guys and the Russian good guys.
Yeah.
So.
But it was so strongly like Russia screwed up
yeah, it was
so
very much
bad.
A look at how incompetent Russia is, but also like it's been praised for its high degree of accuracy. So
holy crap, was it good?
It's so good, and it just like man. From the very moment, you know at the very beginning what's gonna happen, because we all know what happened.
Spoiler alert is bad.
Yeah, you don't really need a spoiler alert on that, do you? Unless you haven't really done the deep nerd dive like I have about what
you'll
exactly
find out more
happened, then you actually can trust that a lot, like most of that stuff is accurate.
I was watching some Wired thing. Yeah, and the explanation he gives of the like how a reactor works in very simplified terms, but she's like, that is the best thing that has ever described what happens in a nuclear reactor.
Exactly. And the one thing that I know isn't accurate is that they took the characters of several real people that existed surrounding this whole thing, and they condensed it, those characters condensed it into one character.
Makes sense.
So, which, like how were they going to get that many people in there? There was a lot of people involved in this. And so, but the information in it is absolutely accurate. And the main players in it, 100% real people. They were real people. They are. Some of them are not dead. Spoiler alert, a whole shitload of them die, but it's Chernobyl. Come on, you knew that. It's not really a spoiler alert, because
if you haven't heard about it by now.
Yeah, that happened 40 years ago too. Oh my god, they're all that was 1986.
Was it that late?
I'm gonna. Okay,
In my
I said
brain,
I
it's
wasn't gonna
earlier
Google,
than
but
that.
I'm absolutely gonna Google this one because I just
Yeah, in my mind, that was a
1986.
lot
I was
later. Wow.
still me.
I thought
So it'll be 40
70s.
years next year.
Okay, so Russian fashion is way behind. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, that's really the big thing that you learned from that series.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've got
And
guests
not
for
that.
those two. Probably going to evolve at some point because I know there's a lot of people who really enjoyed that Chernobyl miniseries.
Yeah,
And it
another
is
one.
a miniseries. I believe there's only like 6 episodes, and none of them are
6
that
or
long.
8.
That one is one that you can absolutely binge because stuff happens fast enough.
They
And it
kept
is,
that one pretty tight.
yeah, and that one is so depressing, but at the same time, it's so interesting that you want
It's
to watch
never
it.
an unjustified, like, oh, we're going to make you sad now because we kind of like, yeah, sorry about this, but this is real sad and this happened.
Yeah, and but
They don't pull the punches.
Their trigger warning though. Definitely.
Most of them.
Yeah, that one is like trigger warning for pet death and just general horrifying things happen. But again, it's Chernobyl. You know this. You know this. If you should know this. If you don't, you need to go study it because it was a very important historical event. Just like the moon landing, although it didn't happen the way that it happens in For All Mankind. So, yeah. Do you have anything to add? We're gonna.
No, I think I
stuff.
just vented for 65 minutes and.
I don't have currently do not have a lot of notes for All Mankind. Like, it is slow, it is a bit dry, but it is packed with information, and there's a lot of really well written characters. Like, it is. If you are a character person, if you like to see well written characters, then maybe you'll still enjoy this, even if you don't care about the moon.
I don't think there's a 2D character in there. They're all
none of
very
them are.
rounded.
Deke. I didn't see Deke do anything super awful. Or maybe I did. I'm gonna have to.
He had his complexity, but he had his complexity relative to his screen time, I would say.
Generally a morally strong character though, that one. And most of them are generally good people, which is what you want to see in your space program. Even if it's fictional. So.
They're all out of this world.
Bug just flew into my. I gotta move my plant rack. Just every now and then a bug happens. It's not. They're not just exploding out of there or anything, but it is a plant rack, so like I should move it farther away from my desk so that I have fewer instances of bugs. One time I had a gnat outbreak because I was overwatering my plants years ago, and they're just they will fly right into your eyeball, up your nose while you're talking. Oh my god. They're the worst. And I like let a lot of my plants die just to starve out the fungus gnats. Learn my lesson.
Can't you use hydrogen peroxide? Now we're into gardening. We're into horticulture.
Yeah, you can use hydrogen peroxide, but I was having trouble with that because I have like 100 plants, so I have a problem. And that problem isn't too many plants. That problem is actually like
Bugs.
ADHD and getting way too into a hobby and then realizing I'm in over my head. That's my problem.
Never happened to me.
Believe it.
Maybe
no
it
bullshit
has.
detected. As always, we're gonna wrap this up. I swear we are. If you have any suggestions for a show that we should do, put it in the comments. We'll read it. We might do the show that you suggest. We might not. And I'm probably not going to tell you that.
And you can assert me as a co-host, or can you? Depends how strong your kung fu is.
There's a, like, in my head I heard dun dun dun, or like maybe the Street Fighter music happened. I don't know. There's stuff that could happen. Do you know that they
fight me for the co-host position?
Democratic congresswoman did that Ready Player thing, and I was like, okay, now you just like it was already barely hanging on the cringe factor, you know, like. But then you guys did it, and now it's don't ever do that again. Stop.
I want to fight a congressperson.
Political figures should just stop trying to be cool, because you're not cool. You're in politics. You're not cool. Just embrace the nerdiness, okay? Just embrace it.
Go be
We
politicians.
know you're not cool. There's no such thing as a cool. Like, even, we thought Obama was cool, but he's a nerd, too. We thought Clinton, not a good person. I guess, you know, for real-life characters being written, there's no such thing as a good president, is there? Like morally, they're all morally gray.
Might be the best you can say about him.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about politics. Although, we could get politics. There's a book called How to Fight Presidents.
Ooh.
And I don't know if y'all have
Like
read that book.
fisticuffs.
I have. See, I can't go get that book because it's way too far away and I'm not running. And we're almost to the end of the show, but I have it. It's called How to Fight Presidents by Dan O'Brien. And it is legit how to fight, like fist fight a president. Like, what are their strengths and weaknesses? How could you beat them? That is literally what that book is about. And we will talk about that book on this show if anybody is interested. Or
Sounds like it was inspired by Fight Club. Like, who could you fight from history? And be like, Lincoln. Tall guys always got a long reach.
It's, if you knew, if you ever watched the Cracked videos from like 10 years ago, you'd probably have seen something about this author. He was in the Cracked video. He actually was the head of video for a while, and he has an unhealthy obsession with presidential history. So it's not that weird that he wrote this book. I'm sure it got him onto some no-fly lists, though. Like, he's definitely been contacted by the FBI more than once. Definitely. Because, like, there was a point at which he had to start Googling live presidents, the ones that are, like, he had to Google presidents who were still alive when he wrote that book. That book does not have, I don't think it has Obama or Trump or Biden or Trump again. It's like, which he obviously wouldn't do 2 entries on Trump. But he does not have those in
What's
there. I don't know if
George Bush's senior arm length?
Seriously, though. Highly recommend
Inquiring minds.
And we will talk about that book if y'all want to hear about how to fight presidents. It's actually a pretty good read. I'm not gonna lie. And with that, let's leave. Come back next week and just talk about the Goonies and contribute your questions and stuff, because y'all don't do that enough. You need to stop lurking and ask questions. I don't even care if they're about the topic. Just ask the
we like questions. Yes, you must remain on topic. That's the importantest thing. Hey, what's our most recent comment? It is Darth Jar Jar. You don't have to be on topic.
It doesn't even have to ask Brian about his hair care routine. You don't have to be on topic. Who cares?
I won't answer until somebody asks.
And you'll never know how he gets those luscious locks. All right. Y'all have a good night and come back next week and watch us talk about the Goonies, and bring your questions or comments or like favorite scene. Just bring all the shit that you like about Goonies and come talk to us. Because we like that.
Or science questions. No chemistry. Chemistry's not my strong suit.
All right. Have a good evening. We're leaving for real this time. Bye.
Later.